I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. Welcome to this edition of your Freight Sales Success Training. After watching and applying it, you'll move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly, and make more money financially. And if you have any questions, call me, Ted Keys, at 626-309-9141. Today's topic comes from the front lines of my 30-plus years of business, sales, and freight moving success. Now enjoy watching, learning, and applying. Guys, hello and welcome to my Tuesday conference call. Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. This is a free, high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top producing, new, and struggling freight agents at 2 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Eastern time. On the call today, I will show you how to move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly so you make more money financially. And after the call, go to my website, tedkeysonline.com, to hear more of my podcasts, read more of my blog posts, watch more of my videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to truly explode your freight business today. When you arrive at my Freight Sales Success Store, you will see a host of products that are available. First one you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Guide for beginner and struggling freight agents. I do, however, provide this for when you join our top producing freight sales office. Another product you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Quotes. These quotes provide you with daily motivation to do what's important, to get on the phone and connect and build relationships with the marketplace. Third product you'll see there is my Freight Sales Success Training. This is a video course that'll take you literally from knowing little or nothing about freight to moving your first freight load and beyond. You'll also see there for sale again is my Freight Sales Success Skills. This product provides those intricate little skills that are required to handle different situations that you come in contact with. However, my Freight Sales Success Skills, along with my other products, are available today for purchase in my Freight Sales Success Store. And while you're there at my store taking in all this free information, on any page on my website you happen to be on, just over to the right, go over to the right and enter your contact details. By doing that, you'll receive your email invite to this and every call. Not only that, you'll receive the attachments that I provide on each and every call. And also, just as a freebie for opting in, you'll receive my free report. Again, it's just a free report. 11 ways freight agents will increase their income. Go through this as a beginning, struggling freight agent. This report will assist you in increasing your income. And just so you know, that report there has been downloaded thousands of times before. And if you have any questions whatsoever about what I went over today, or more importantly, more specifically, are you ready for my top producing one-on-one personal freight sales, freight broker training? Then give me, Ted Keys, a call. I'm at 626-309-9141. Today's training topic is actions that dominate your freight market. Actions that dominate your freight market. So for those of you that are on my Gmail contact list and you got my email invite today, just scroll down to the bottom and we're going to go over the attachments that I sent you on my topic today, actions that dominate your freight market. If there's one thing that you will, as you get better and better and better at this profession, you will start dominating the market that you're in. Now, what market should you start with? I have absolutely no idea. Every time somebody asks me this, I say, do with what you're familiar with. Me personally, most of my loads are hauling used clothes. I pick up from Goodwills and Salvation Armies all over the country. I take them to my customers. that are typically based in either Miami or Houston. But let me just give you some other examples of agents that are on my freight team in the areas that they dominate. As I said earlier, I'm dominant in used clothes. Dave is dominant in produce. Steve is dominant in building materials. Ben, he specializes in moving eggs from the Northwest all over the country and the Midwest. Dominic specializes in moving oil and fracking tanks. My wife Maria specializes in moving hay. Now, do you just become dominant initially in your market? Absolutely not. You've got to start at the bottom and work your way up. But what I'm going to go over today is specifics on how to become dominant and how to dominate your freight market. And I'll say this, it's all a process. It's all a process. So again, great topic today, actions that dominate your freight market. Five things that you have to do in order to become dominant in the freight market that you're in. Now, the first thing you have to do, point number one, again, I'm going to go over 5 points. The first point that you have to do is you have to decide, okay? You have to decide what market that you will become dominant in. Now, I shouldn't be saying become dominant in. Decide what market you will get into, what market that you'll start moving freight in. As a beginner, you can't do that, all right? As a beginner, you've got to make phone call after phone call after phone call. But in doing that, you're deciding, hey, I am a future successful freight agent, freight broker. This is what I'm going to do. I am deciding today, right now, that in the future, I will be a success. Now, again, are you deciding what market you're going to be dominant? No, but you're deciding to become and be that successful freight agent. So the first point you have to do is you have to decide, you have to make that choice that, hey, I am in this, okay? I am in this for the duration, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, whatever it is, because as I typically say, 95% of the individuals that get into this profession, they end up quitting. Why? Because they're not deciding. They're just doing this on a whim. They heard it from, the guy down the street that, yeah, get into freight, become a freight agent, become a freight broker. I heard how successful this other guy is, or something like that. And those are a lot of the individuals that come to me. They're not deciding. They're just saying, yeah, I want to get into this. My first question is, what's your experience moving freight? And typically it's 0, okay? So the first thing you have to do is you have to decide if you're going to be dominant in any area of this profession. Point number two is you've got to commit yourself. You got to commit yourself. When I first got into this, I was committed to moving feed, animal feed. Why did I do that? Because that's what I was familiar with. I am a farm boy, raised on a farm in Wisconsin many years ago, but when I got into this, I was aware of animal feed. I was aware of the mills that made it, the plants that made it. I was aware of the feed stores that sold it, even the farms that had it delivered to them, either in bagged or in bulk. But I committed to the industry first. Now, am I dominant in that market? No, it just so happened that I moved over to what I do now, which is used clothes. I pick up these used clothes from Goodwills, and just think of how many Goodwills there are throughout the country. I pick these up from Goodwills and I deliver them to my customers, typically in port cities. Why are they in port cities? Because all of these items get shipped overseas. I am dominant in used clothes. Now, why am I dominant? Because at some point, several years ago, I committed to the industry, all right? The problem with committing is so many people say, hey, I'm going to get into this industry. I'm going to get into that industry. I'm going to get into this industry, that industry. They get in there, they hit the obstacles, and then they say, this is too hard. This is too hard. Let me try that industry. or let me try that industry. And what do? They leave everything that they did, the foundation that they built in the previous industry. They get into the next industry, and what happens? They hit these roadblocks. I can guarantee you that in any industry that you pursue, you will hit roadblocks. Don't ever think that an industry is greener on the other side, where you're hauling lumber and you think steel, is the easy way to go, or you're hauling sod, and you think lumber is the way to go. Hey, these are industries that we all have to start with, all right? But it's as you get better and better that you can start choosing, hey, I am going to get into this industry and I'm committing myself to it. Because once you make that commitment and once you start moving loads in that industry, then you can go to other companies in that same industry and say, hey, I specialize in moving this material. I specialize in moving foam. Oh, you do? Okay. Give me a rate from point A to point B. But you have to commit, okay? In order to become dominant in a market, you have to initially commit to that market. If you don't commit and you're just going willy-nilly everywhere, you won't become dominant in anything. So that's point number one. Point number one is you have to decide first. Point number two is you have to commit yourself. Commit yourself to that market, to that industry. Continue building that contact list in that market, in that industry, to where you start moving loads. And are you calling 1 a day, 2 a day, 3 a day? No, you're calling 10 a day, you're calling 20 a day. There are more than enough companies in one industry where you can continue making phone call after phone call. Third point you have to do to become dominant in an industry is you have to take action. You have to take action. You actually have to pick up your telephone and make phone calls to the companies that are in that particular industry. And you can go over all of these guidelines that I have in my Freight Sales Success Guide, again available at my website, tedkeysonline.com. But you have to act. You have to call and make call after call after call after call. Once you make those calls, once you build that contact list, somebody will start giving you the ability and the opportunity to quote their freight. But you have to keep acting. And again, when you hit those roadblocks, don't think that it's easier or better somewhere else. Just keep taking those same actions. Keep picking up the phone. Keep calling, and I guarantee you, the more calls you make, the better you will get at this profession. Point number one, you have to decide. Point number two, you have to commit. Point number three, you have to take action, and you have to keep acting. Don't ever stop acting. Point number four that you have to do to become dominant in a particular market is you have to succeed, all right? If you're not succeeding, it's because you're not acting. If you're not acting, it's because you haven't committed, okay? And if you haven't committed, it's because you haven't decided. So in order to become successful, you actually have to succeed, because I guarantee you that you keep making call after call after call, okay? And you start and you continue to ask the correct questions. Do the right research on these folks. They will give you the opportunity to move their freight. Now, will they do it after a week? High probability they won't. Will they do it after 2 weeks? Don't know. I don't know your talents. I don't know your commitment, okay? I don't know what type of actions you're taking. Will they start giving you the opportunity after 3 weeks, 4 weeks? I don't know. But one thing I do know, and one statistic that you have to have on your wall is, I keep repeating this, 80% of your sales will come between your 5th and your 12th contact. So think about it. If you're making a follow-up call once a week, all right, think about it. 80% of your sales come between your 5th and your 12th contact. All right, now you can call folks more than one time a week, but one is standard. Do you want to call them more than that? I don't know. It depends on the industry and the market and the type of company that you're calling, all right? But if you're, just on average, you're making one follow-up call a week, well, 80% between your 5th and your 12th contact, what does that tell you? You're going to start getting the opportunity after 2, 3, 4 weeks, all right? Now, 80%, hey, 5% may come after 3, 10% may come after 4, all right? The thing is, you keep on calling, all right? When you keep calling, when you keep taking action, you will start succeeding. Unfortunately, most individuals, they quit after 2, 3, 4 weeks. They quit before they've even gotten going. So, point number 1, you decide. Point number 2, you commit. Point number 3, you act and keep acting. Point number 4, you start succeeding. And when you start succeeding over and over again, that's when you do point number 5, and that is repeating. Okay? Repeating. However, you can't repeat if you don't pick up the phone and make the calls. See, when you get to the repeating stage, you've got a system in place, and every business operates on a successful system. Now, every industry is different. The calls you make in industry A will be different from the calls you make in industry B, but it all follows the same pattern. After you decide, commit, act, and succeed, you start repeating. You start repeating the process. And once you're at that point where you're actually repeating the process, that's where your sales really start taking off. Because why? You figured out the negatives, you figured out the mistakes, you figured out the failures. It's only at that point where you're doing things correctly. When will that point be? I don't know. I don't know the industry you're pursuing. I don't know the questions that you're asking. I don't know if you're following my advice or somebody else's advice. But 5 points in order to dominate your market that you have to do. First thing again is decide. Second thing you do is commit. Third thing you do is act and continue acting. The fourth thing you do after you keep acting and acting and acting is you start succeeding, okay? And once you start succeeding, you will repeat. It's like a blender or a mixer, all right? You take the stuff, you throw it in, you start mixing this together, and then voila, you have a successful recipe to build or to bake a cake or whatever it is, a casserole, whatever it is. You take all these ingredients, successful ingredients, continue to mix them up, continue to take action, mix them up, call, quote, move the freight, then you start succeeding. That's what you have to do to become dominant in a market. Decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat. Great topic for what I'm talking about today, and that is actions that dominate your freight market. Actions that dominate your freight market. In concluding my call, do you have any questions about what I just went over today? Any questions, regardless of what it is, or more importantly, more specifically, are you ready for my top producing one-on-one personal freight sales, freight broker training? Yes? Give me a call, Ted Keys. I'm at 626-309-9141.